Hey, friends and neighbors. So, if you're buying a house, do you feel like you're being represented, like you're the client of the realtor and your interests come before anybody else's? Y'all, there's a difference between being a client and a customer. Do you know what those differences are? I'm going to tell you right now. I'm Steve Reese, a realtor in the Oklahoma City metro area, specifically the suburb of Shawnee, just east of Tinker Air Force Base. I run the soldonshawnee.com real estate and community blog, and on this channel, I tell you everything you need to know about relocating in the Oklahoma City area. So let's talk about levels of service available to you as a home buyer, specifically in Oklahoma, because that's where I'm licensed, but the concepts apply everywhere. Now, you may be wondering first about this t-shirt. I don't always wear a button-down shirt and looking all professional, but today I had a couple of local community events, and this one kind of tied into one of them I volunteer for. So in Shawnee, through an organization called Community Renewal of Potawatomi County, they evangelize their volunteers and community members. So through the schools and different businesses, they have what's called We Care Wednesday. And it's we care, period. It's not we care if you look like this. We care if you live in a particular neighborhood. We care if you sound like this. It's we care, period. And the mission behind Community Renewal is that they help neighbors restore community through intentional relationships. And so that's something that's very near and dear to my heart. So this morning I was speaking to a group of third graders at Horace Mann Elementary School on their career day and talking to them about career in real estate. And they were wonderful. I had lots of high fives and a few hugs when I left. Just a great experience. And I may have a few recruits in a few years when they graduate high school. And then after that, had a committee meeting at our local chamber called Shawnee Forward. So anyway, that was my morning today, and that's why We Care today, We Care Wednesday. So in a client relationship, one that I think that as a home buyer, you think you already have, we have a duty to provide professional advice in addition to material facts, provide price counseling and professional insights based on comparable properties. So that means for a seller, we would do a CMA or comparative market analysis for them. That's something that you as a buyer are owed when you're trying to evaluate how much to offer for a property. We're to pay full attention to your needs, tell you all you need to know about the seller within the boundaries of the Oklahoma Broker Relationships Law regarding confidentiality. Confidential information that's not public knowledge and not out in the public domain is to remain confidential. So things regarding motivational factors like how much a seller is willing to take, what sort of motivation they have for moving, those sort of things, unless they're out there, like there's a divorce that's already been finalized, or a baby is born and that's Facebook public. Those sort of things are considered confidential and something that we can't divulge before, during, or after the transaction. That was way more than I wanted to get into with that. But keep your information confidential, which is something that has to be done whether you're a client or not. Focus on the choices that satisfy your needs. Protect and guide you. As a customer, there's no duty to protect your interests. Negotiate on your behalf. As a customer, we just take direction from you and go to the other side with it. But as a client, we're negotiating on your behalf. We work to solve problems to your advantage and satisfaction. So those are some of the things that as a client, we owe to you. In a customer relationship, that's way different. Now, a licensee or a realtor acting in a customer relationship with a home buyer maintains loyalty only to the transaction and not to you, the buyer. We provide material facts without professional advice, provide price information without counsel and insight, negotiate on behalf of the transaction without regard for your best interests, and then we attempt to solve problems to protect the success of the transaction. It's all about the transaction at that point and not about you as a client. I kind of feel like you want that kind of protection and that kind of advocacy on your behalf. Now, in Oklahoma, In order for you to have that client relationship with a broker, it requires a document. So if you're familiar with home selling, there's a listing agreement. We've probably all heard of a listing agreement. That creates a client-broker relationship. And in that regard, it sets out, well, any contract, a purchase contract, a listing agreement, and then the next I'm going to talk about. A contract is a promise for a promise. So in a listing agreement, there are promises that the listing agent and the broker make to the client, and there are promises that the client makes to the broker. For a home buyer to be a client of the broker and the agent, there's a document in Oklahoma called a buyer-broker service agreement, and it's kind of like a listing agreement for a buyer. And it sets out there what the buyer is going to do, which is basically maintaining loyalty to the broker, and what the broker/agent is going to do for the buyer, which is the work toward finding the property. All these things I've laid out for you as far as advocacy and care for your interests, and then how the agent is going to be paid, how the broker is going to be paid. There are different selections in there, whether the buyer pays the fee, or whether the compensation comes from already an arrangement that's out there through the multiple listing service or through a private arrangement with a for sale by owner, for instance. So in conclusion, buyer clients receive a superior level of service. They receive obedience and loyalty from the broker. A buyer client gets more without paying more. So for me specifically, my compensation comes through the multiple listing service. A multiple listing service is a clearinghouse of property data that also includes, just by one's membership in the multiple listing service, an agreement to accept the compensation that's offered in there. So that's already arranged for me and my broker. If you're interested in buying a property that's unlisted or for sale by owner, FSBO will sometimes say, I will reach out to that owner and see if they'll pay my fee. If not, then we'll have to work out some other arrangement. But usually they're willing to work in that way. So I just want you to be mindful of the differences and look out for yourself if you're looking to buy a home. You want client level services, and it's worth having a conversation with your agent about to make sure that you're receiving that level of service. If you don't sign a buyer broker service agreement, then you are not getting that level of service, and the agent is prohibited from providing those things to you. So have that conversation. If you have any more questions, reach out to me offline. My contact information is down below. I'll have some other resources there for you to look at. I want you to be an informed consumer, and if a move brings you to the Oklahoma City metro area or Shawnee, I'd be honored to apply for the job. Well, that's it for this week. Live it up, and I'll see you in another video. All right.